Welcome back, McFly subscribers. So this is what we're tying today. It's a Perdigon Fly, but in a Frenchi style. I will discuss the fly and applications later in this video in order to get to tying faster. So let's go ahead and get started. You will need a jig hook with a tungsten slotted bead. Here I have Resin's 9230 barbless jig hook in size 14, and Resin's tungsten slotted bead in gold in size 3.5mm. Place your hook and bead securely in your vise, and make sure that the bead is seated properly in the jig bend of the hook. For thread, I'm using Viva's 10-aught in two different colors, brown and red. Let's start with the brown thread. Start the thread right behind the bead and then snip or snap off the waist, and then proceed to make many wraps directly behind the bead until the bead is locked into place and won't slide down the hook shank. End with your thread halfway down the hook shank. For a tail, I really like these Whiting CDL tailing packs, but any stiff fiber feather will be just fine. So this is the natural brown color. Pull one feather off and strip off the fuzzy feathers at the base of the tail, leaving only the stiffer fibers. Then stroke out about a half a dozen or so fibers so the tips align, and then rip them off the stem. You can see how the tips stayed aligned here. Tie these fibers in with 2 to 3 wraps, so that the tips are pointed rearward. Then adjust the length of the fibers by pulling the butt ends until you're happy with the length. Then wrap back to the bend of the hook with smooth touching wraps. Now this is a flat thread, so here I am spinning my bobbin counterclockwise to uncord the thread so I can get smoother and thinner wraps. Then cut off the butt ends of the feather fibers. Now we need some ribbing, and for that I'm using these magic quills in the medium size with the dark edge. Pull off one quill and you can see that the quill is tapered. Now last week I tied this Perdigon Fly, which was a bit smaller. I already used the quill for that. I did not use the entire quill, and I told you all to save that used quill for larger flies. These quills are tapered, so as you use it up, it gets fatter, which makes a wider rib. So let's use that quill. Tie in the quill on the side of the fly right at the base of the tail so the quill doesn't extend past the bead. Make touching wraps up the hook shank covering the quill tag. I want to fully cover the quill, so here I am wrapping back down and back up with the thread uncorded, trying to make a smooth brown body. End with your thread about an eye length back from the bead. Now proceed to make touching wraps up the fly body with your quill. One thing to note is that there is a sticky side and a smooth side. You want to make sure that this is tied in so that the sticky side is laying down on the hook and the smooth side is facing outward. Once you reach your thread, then capture the quill with 2 tight wraps and one in front. Then snip it off close. Make a couple wraps to cover up the tag end, and if you need, you can push that forward so the thread covers it properly. End with your thread right behind the bead. Now let's grab the red thread and tie it in covering the brown thread tag. Grab the brown thread and red thread tag and angle rearward, tying up over it. Then cut off both the brown and red thread tags. Now we need some UV resin, and I really like this Solares Ultra Thin. It comes with a handy paintbrush built into the cap for application. Paint some of this resin over the quill body on all sides. Then cure it into place with your UV light. Now I'm not spinning this fully around to cure it because I don't want to unravel the red thread. Now we need some flashy dubbing, and this UV2 Diamond Bright fits that bill. I will be using the pink color here. Just pull off a small amount as we don't need much. Dub this onto your thread, forming a tight and thin noodle. Then wrap this noodle just behind the bead, forming a collar on the fly. Note that I don't go back too far. You really only want to extend back about 1/3 of the hook shank. If you need, you can add more dubbing. Then make many wraps in front of the collar to form a thread hot spot right behind the bead and whip finish your fly. Since there is dubbing, I don't cement the head, so I make a second whip finish to really secure this fly before snipping off the waist thread. And there we go, this fly is now finished. Great job, everyone. This fly really does look much harder than it really is. As you can tell, it's quite easy to tie. So Frenchies are traditionally tied with pheasant tail bodies. However, those feather fibers can be a bit fragile, and they can start to unravel after a couple fish strikes. But this Perdigon version, where we cement the body with UV resin, really does make this much more durable. The bright pink collar and red hot spot act as an attractor to the fish, bringing them up to inspect, and the natural looking body help the fish want to bite. I love using Perdigons as lead flies because they are so heavy, and being tied on a jig hook, they snag on the bottom less often and pick up less junk like algae. Many times I will drop a more natural and unweighted fly off the back of this, allowing the Perdigon to bump along the bottom and the unweighted fly to bounce around behind it, above the snag risks. So lately I've been on a Perdigon kick because I have to replace a few in my Perdigon box, and I'm almost filled up here. By the way, I do sell these boxes on Amazon with free shipping. They are waterproof and have a silicone backing, which won't get all beat up like the foam inserts do. They're super slim and fit well in a shirt pocket. Or they also allow you to bring multiple boxes in your fly bag, organizing your boxes by fly type. I will link to the boxes in the description section below. Last week I tied this Perdigon fly, what I call the brown quill flashback, which I will link below. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss next week's video, as I will be tying this extremely easy Perdigon fly in 2 different colors. Now if you haven't already, go check out my sponsor Resin Fly. They made the hooks and beads I use today, also the scissors, and they make rods and reels, fly tying materials, riverside accessories, and much more. All at amazing prices for extremely good quality gear. Best off, they're offering you all a discount on top of their already great prices. So go to www.resinfly.com and type in McFly at checkout for 15% off of your first order with them. Also, please do me a favor and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, as it helps me and the channel out. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.